Good evening. This is Eclipse News, bringing you breaking coverage of a major safety crisis in the autonomous vehicle industry. Waymo, the autonomous vehicle company owned by Google's parent company, Alphabet, has just announced a massive recall of nearly 4,000 of its robotaxis. The recall affects 3,871 vehicles equipped with Waymo's 5th-generation automated driving system. The reason for the recall is deeply concerning. The vehicles have a software defect that has caused them to drive into closed freeway construction zones at highway speeds. This is not a minor software glitch. This is a critical safety issue that puts drivers, construction workers, and the general public at serious risk. Tonight, we are breaking down exactly what happened, how many incidents there have been, what the safety implications are, and what this means for the future of autonomous vehicles in America. Let me start with the facts, because they are absolutely alarming. Between April and May of this year, Waymo's autonomous vehicles were involved in multiple dangerous incidents. In April, specifically on April 11th and April 19th, Waymo robotaxis in Phoenix, Arizona failed to recognize ramp closure signs. These are large, clearly visible signs that indicate a freeway entrance ramp is closed. But the Waymo vehicles did not recognize these signs. They drove past them and entered pre-planned freeway construction zones. Think about what that means. A construction zone on a freeway is an extremely dangerous place for a vehicle to be driving. There are workers present. There are heavy machinery. There are narrowed lanes. There are hazards everywhere, And these autonomous vehicles drove into these zones because their software failed to recognize the closure signs. Then, in May, the situation got worse. May 18th, 7 separate Waymo robotaxis were involved in incidents in the San Francisco Bay Area. These vehicles entered active freeway construction lanes by driving between cones that were clearly marking lane closures. The software issue was not just failing to recognize closure signs. The vehicles were actively driving into areas where cones had been placed to designate closed lanes. This is an extraordinarily dangerous situation. Construction workers are in these areas. Other vehicles are in these areas. The autonomous vehicles were driving at highway speeds into these dangerous zones because they were failing to recognize the hazards. In total, there have been at least 13 documented incidents involving Waymo robotaxis entering closed freeway construction zones. 13 separate times, these vehicles have driven into areas that are closed and dangerous. 13 times, they have put people at risk. That is what triggered the recall. That is what made Waymo's Field Safety Committee decide that action had to be taken immediately. Now, let's talk about the technical issue. According to Waymo's own filing with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the problem is in the automated driving system's software. The system is inappropriately prioritizing the avoidance of other freeway hazards. This means that when the vehicle is trying to avoid one hazard, it is so focused on that task that it is failing to recognize construction zones. The software is failing to recognize the construction zone as a hazard that should be avoided. Instead, it is swerving around other hazards and failing to recognize that it is driving into an area that is closed and unsafe. The official description from the NHTSA filing states that under certain circumstances, the autonomous vehicle may enter and drive at speed in freeway construction zones due to inappropriately prioritizing the avoidance of other freeway hazards and/or failing to recognize the construction zone. This is not a small programming error. This is a fundamental flaw in how the vehicle's decision-making system is weighing different hazards and priorities. The recall covers Waymo's 5th-generation automated driving system. These are the systems that were manufactured between May 17, 2022 and May 19, 2026. So this covers a 4-year span of vehicles. According to Waymo's own estimate, all 3,871 vehicles equipped with the 5th-generation system are affected by this defect. That means every single one of these vehicles has the potential to drive into a closed construction zone. Waymo made a statement about the recall in which they said they identified an area of improvement regarding performance around freeway construction zones. This is a very clinical way of describing a serious safety defect. They also said they voluntarily restricted freeway operations last month while making improvements. So, after the incidents began occurring in May, Waymo stopped allowing its robotaxis to drive on freeways. They suspended freeway service in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Phoenix, and Miami. These are 4 of the major cities where Waymo was operating. So now, in those cities, Waymo robotaxis are only available for non-freeway driving. This is the second recall that Waymo has issued in little over a month. In May, Waymo recalled its robotaxis for a different issue. In that recall, Waymo vehicles had driven into flooded zones with standing water, potentially putting passengers at risk of electrocution or other hazards. So, less than a month after recalling vehicles for driving into flooded areas, Waymo is now recalling its entire fleet for driving into construction zones. The timing of this second recall raises serious questions about Waymo's testing procedures and safety protocols. How did these vehicles get on public roads with this defect? How did 13 separate incidents have to occur before action was taken? Why was this safety issue not caught during testing or development? According to the NHTSA filing, Waymo's Field Safety Committee began reviewing the issue in late April after examining the 6 initial incidents in Phoenix. The committee met again in May after identifying 7 additional instances involving active construction zones in the San Francisco Bay Area. So the company knew about incidents in April. They knew about incidents in May, and it was not until June that they announced the recall. As of the date of the NHTSA filing, which was June 13th, a software remedy remained under development. This means that as of last week, Waymo did not have a fix ready. They knew there was a critical safety problem. They suspended freeway operations, but they did not have the software fix prepared. This is a concerning timeline that raises questions about how thoroughly Waymo tested this system before deploying it on public roads. Now, let's talk about what could have happened. These are autonomous vehicles driving at highway speeds into active construction zones. Construction zones are inherently dangerous places. There are workers present who are at serious risk. If a 3,000-pound autonomous vehicle traveling at freeway speeds enters a construction zone, it could collide with construction workers, with construction equipment, with other vehicles, or with hazards in the zone. The public has been told repeatedly that autonomous vehicles are safer than human drivers because they do not get distracted, they do not get tired, and they make rational decisions based on data. But this recall shows a fundamental failure in that logic. The autonomous vehicle is making a very irrational decision. It is prioritizing the avoidance of some hazards while completely failing to recognize other hazards that are far more dangerous. A human driver would see a closed lane and would simply not drive into it. A human driver would see a ramp closure sign and would not drive up the ramp, but the Waymo system is failing at these basic tasks. This raises serious questions about the readiness of autonomous vehicle technology for widespread public use. Waymo has been operating its robotaxi service in multiple cities. It has been allowing paying customers to ride in these vehicles. It has been promoting autonomous vehicles as the future of transportation. But this recall shows that the technology is not ready for this level of deployment. The safety implications are not limited to active hazards in construction zones. Consider a situation where a freeway ramp is permanently closed. There might be barriers or signs. But what if a vehicle needs to make a quick decision about whether to enter the ramp? What if the signs are not visible for some reason? What if there is a situation that the system was not trained to recognize? These are the kinds of edge cases that could cause dangerous accidents. Waymo operates in 11 American cities. Prior to the freeway driving restrictions, Waymo had been serving public riders on freeways in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Phoenix, and Miami. That means thousands of riders have been in vehicles with this defect. That means thousands of people have trusted their lives to a system that has a critical safety flaw. The question of liability is also important. If a Waymo robotaxi with this defect has struck a construction worker, who would be responsible? Is it Waymo? Is it the vehicle owner? Is it the person who called for the ride? Is it the city that permitted the vehicle to operate? These are questions that the legal system may have to answer if an accident occurs. The NHTSA is the federal agency responsible for overseeing vehicle safety. The fact that Waymo felt compelled to issue this recall suggests that either NHTSA informed Waymo that a recall was necessary, or Waymo was trying to get ahead of a potential NHTSA action. Either way, this is a serious matter that has captured the attention of federal regulators. This is the latest in a series of safety issues involving Waymo vehicles. Earlier in the year, Waymo vehicles were involved in incidents where they stopped school buses, where they drove through floodwater, and where they crashed into stationary objects. Each of these incidents raised questions about the safety of the technology and the wisdom of deploying it on public roads. The autonomous vehicle industry is still in its early stages. Companies like Waymo, Tesla, and others are working to develop the technology and get it approved for wider use. But incidents like this recall underscored the challenges that remain. The technology is not perfect. The testing is not exhaustive. The edge cases and unusual situations are not all anticipated. Waymo's decision to operate primarily on pre-mapped routes in controlled conditions makes sense from a safety perspective. But even with these precautions, the system is making dangerous errors. Waymo cannot prevent its vehicles from driving into closed construction zones. What does that say about the safety of the broader autonomous vehicle industry? The recall also raises questions about the regulatory framework for autonomous vehicles. How thoroughly are these vehicles tested before they are approved for public use? What happens if an autonomous vehicle causes an accident? Who is liable? Who pays for damages? These are questions that regulators are still wrestling with. Some experts have questioned whether the autonomous vehicle industry is moving too fast. They argue that companies are deploying these vehicles on public roads with insufficient testing and validation. This recall provides evidence that supports that criticism. On the other hand, proponents of autonomous vehicles argue that the technology will ultimately be safer than human driving. They point out that human drivers kill tens of thousands of people every year in the United States alone. They argue that if autonomous vehicles can reduce that number, even if they are not perfect, they are still a net positive for public safety. But that argument falls apart if the autonomous vehicle systems are making dangerous errors that a competent human driver would never make. A human driver simply would not drive into a closed construction zone. So the autonomous vehicle has to at least match human performance on basic safety tasks. The good news is that Waymo has acknowledged the problem and taken action. They have suspended freeway operations. They are developing a software fix. They have issued a recall. These are the appropriate responses to a safety issue, but the question remains whether this issue should have been caught before the vehicles were deployed on public roads in the first place. Going forward, Waymo will need to rebuild public trust in its technology. There will be questions about whether it is safe to ride in a Waymo robotaxi. There will be questions about whether the company is being transparent about safety issues. There will be questions about whether the autonomous vehicle industry is advancing too quickly without sufficient safety precautions. This recall is also significant because it is being covered extensively in the media. The story of autonomous vehicles driving into construction zones is inherently dramatic and newsworthy, speaks to fundamental concerns about technology, safety, and the future of transportation. People are paying attention to this story because it matters to them. The impact on Waymo's business is likely to be significant. The company suspended freeway operations in 4 major cities. The recall will require engineering resources to develop and implement a fix. The company's reputation for safety and competence has been damaged. Customer confidence will need to be rebuilt. The impact on the broader autonomous vehicle industry is also significant. If the public loses confidence in Waymo, that could spill over to affect other autonomous vehicle companies. Regulators might become more cautious about approving autonomous vehicle operations. Investors might become more skeptical about the timeline to profitability for autonomous vehicle companies. This recall is a reminder that technology, no matter how advanced, is not infallible. Systems can fail. Defects can occur. And when defects occur in systems that affect public safety, they need to be addressed immediately and thoroughly. For now, Waymo robotaxis are not allowed on freeways in the 4 affected cities. The company is working on a software fix. Once the fix is ready, the vehicles will need to be updated. Only then will freeway service resume. This process could take days, weeks, or months. During that time, Waymo's robotaxi service will be limited to non-freeway driving. For the customers who have been using Waymo, the recall is a stark reminder of the risks of riding in an autonomous vehicle. For construction workers on freeways, the recall is a reminder that there are systems on the road that may not recognize their safety zones and may pose a risk to them. For the general public, the recall is a reminder that autonomous vehicle technology is still developing and is not yet perfect. That is the situation with Waymo in the autonomous vehicle industry tonight. A major safety recall has been issued for nearly 4,000 vehicles. The defect is serious and could result in accidents. The company has taken action to address the problem, but questions remain about the safety of autonomous vehicle technology and whether it is ready for widespread public deployment. For Eclipse News, I am your correspondent, bringing you breaking coverage of this developing story. We will continue to monitor the situation as more information becomes available. We will track Waymo's efforts to develop a fix. We will follow the regulatory response from NHTSA and other agencies, and we will keep you informed about the future of autonomous vehicle technology in America. Stay informed, stay aware, and stay tuned to Eclipse News for the latest breaking news coverage.